Welcome back to Behind the Routes. Since the previous part, I actually rerouted a bit of the early game, so there's actually a minor change from the last video. I previously stated that we'd have the Touch of Youth equipped for this section, but we're actually going in with the Alien DNA instead. This one boosts brains and brawn by 40% instead and drops spunk by 20%. Now then, once we've entered town, we're going to head to Freeman's Tacos first for the crafting tutorial. This is done now, so we won't have to backtrack here later. While we're here, we'll also do a bit of crafting in order to level up the Ubisoft rewards we got from our toy chests. The crafting menu here would actually differ depending on how many DLC items you have. One other title that we want in the run is the Artifact Hunter title, but there's a weird caveat to it. If we get the Novice Artifact Hunter title before the Drunk Randy 2 fight, we actually need to get the Enthusiastic Artifact Hunter title on top of it before the Freedom Pals 2 fight. The reason for this is because the Drunk Randy 2 fight actually rubber bands your experience. It gives 110 XP by default, but if you do not have enough to reach hero rank 4 plus 10 additional XP, then it gives you enough to reach that much. This means any additional XP gained before Drunk Randy 2 is effectively wasted. You get points toward the Artifact Hunter title with every new artifact you get. Duplicates of the same artifact do not count towards this, but getting a different plus number of an artifact does count as a separate artifact. So a Kinetic Sigil plus 1 and a Kinetic Sigil plus 2 are considered two different artifacts. For me, I have all DLC artifacts except for the Danger Deck items unlocked, so I craft by doing Kinetic Sigil, Clockwork, Kinetic Sigil, Divine Amplifier, and Doom Gloves to get the levels I need for the Ubisoft rewards, and 7 artifacts for the title, which is just one short of what I need. By the way, when crafting, it's faster to constantly open and close the menu like this because it bypasses the animation for gaining experience afterwards. The longer the animation, the more time you save. We're actually not equipping any of this stuff yet. We'll be doing so once we unlock our next artifact slots. In the meantime, we're heading over to Raisins to grab Mosquito. Before the next fight, let's talk a bit about our party members. By default, Henrietta will actually be shoved into the party because as a DLC character, she's one of the first to join, but we'll be replacing her with Human Kite. Henrietta's kit is very support heavy, and her only attack skill, Cigarette Burn, is extremely weak, hitting up to 3 enemies in a row and inflicting burn, but only hitting for 125% potency instead of 200% like similar skills. We don't want extra debuffs for no reason as they just add onto animation time, and there aren't any situations in the near future where she can hit multiple people in a horizontal line. Also, she's on the slower side, so most of our characters can't even take advantage of her buffs until a second round of attacks, which makes her even less useful. She does at least have a full field ultimate Black Mass which will be useful for one battle further down the line, but she's overall not that great. Human Kite's main attack Laser Burn is a very basic single target range skill that hits for 300% potency, which is very typical for single target skills and has one of the fastest animations. Beyond that, he has a healing skill and a shield, but neither are used because we barely take any damage in the run, and while his ultimate is decent, there's better options out there. Next we have the other DLC character Mintberry Crunch, who's got a really broken defensive kit, but offensively he is absolute garbage. His strongest skill deals 100% potency to up to 3 enemies in a column in front of him, and while it does also have knockback, there's no good setups where he deals any reasonable amount of damage. His other attack skill Berry Land has 175% potency and hits in a plus shape around him, but it's a 2-turn skill, so potency per turn is half of that. He has a full field ultimate with pretty high potency, but his kit's so bad that it's not enough to justify using him on the one fight where it would be helpful. Super Craig is bad due to how inflexible he is, but we do use him a few times in the run, mostly just to condense menuing. He only has 2 moves, and his only long distance skill, Omega Crash Extra, can't be used if someone's standing in the way, including an ally. His Mega Fist Punch hits 300% single target and has knockback, which can be a nice little boost to damage in some fights. Unfortunately, he's also the second slowest character right after Tupperware, so he's usually getting his turn after most of the enemies have already gone. He does at least have Shining Hate Finger, which taunts an enemy and shields himself, which is situationally useful as we'll see later on. Mosquito's forced into the party because of the upcoming scripted event, but he's one of the better characters anyways. He has 3 moves, so he's great at navigating the grids. His main skill is Bug Bite Barrage, and it has the typical 300% potency for a single target skill. His Skeeter Swarm is extremely weak, hitting all 8 square around him for 75% potency. It does inflict gross out on all enemies and gives himself attack up, but we kill enemies fast enough that we never really see the benefits. His last skill, Zeker Rush, hits up to 3 enemies in a row, but it only has 150% potency, which is significantly worse than some comparable skills. He's the third fastest out of our allies behind Fast Pass and Mintberry Crunch, so he can outspeed a few enemies in these earlier sections to help us take them out before they get their turns. Finally, we have Fast Pass, who's another flexible character. He's the second fastest ally and also has 3 moves. His hit and run skill attacks an enemy exactly 2 spaces away, which makes it easier for him to attack without blocking another ally, but it has a lower potency at 250% in exchange. He also has Blind Sight, which hits up to 3 enemies in a row with 200% potency and makes him go invisible for a turn, which is useful for cutting out attacks since enemies can't target him. His last skill, Transporter, is a heal that also swaps his position with his targets. While this could have some uses, currently I've found no reason to use it in this run, as we'd rather skip a turn than wasting time with an animation that doesn't do much, and so far any places where I could benefit from a position swap has been done faster just by finding a better combination of actions to do. Now onto the next fight, which is against the Raisins girls. The battle always starts off with one of the Raisins girls charming mosquitoes so that he attacks the party. New Kid will use a Ghastly Grasp to attack the 3 girls in the corner, taking all but 1 out. Mosquito's going to be charmed for 1 more turn, so we'll break him out of this at the start with Fast Pass only because Fast Pass's attack animation is faster than Mosquito's. Next, Human Kite will get rid of the Raisins girl in the top corner. The one remaining Raisins girl can't reach anyone, so she'll just skip her turn. We'll now take her out with a Dire Shroud into a laser burn from Human Kite to end the fight. Now we have 2 more places to go to for the story, the school and the church. It's faster to start at the church because it's less distance traveled. Along the way, we'll also pick up the Yaoi in front of City Hall, getting us 2 out of the 5 we need. Once we're in the church, we'll get locked in the closet with 2 priests, just like all my Sunday mornings. We'll start by standing below the priest on the left to avoid getting hit by the other priest and use a Dire Shroud on him to do some damage. This forces the 2 priests to stand together on the next turn as well, giving us the perfect setup for a Soul Slash to knock out one of the priests. Then we end the fight with 1 more Soul Slash. Next up, we have to go to school to pick our gender identity for the first time, and for the sake of the run, we go with Other. This option is the fastest because we get 2 skippable cutscenes and only 1 dialogue option. By the way, picking cisgendered boy does not skip the rednecks fights. They'll try to beat you up no matter what your gender identity is. We're also going to equip the Tachyon Matrix and the Crystal Capacitor, which we upgraded a while ago. The Tachyon Matrix boosts knockback by 88%, which despite being a pathetically low bonus this early in the game, will be enough to cut out 1 action in the future. We're again going into the fight with our party of Fast Pass, Human Kite, and Mosquito simply because there's no reason to swap anyone out. We'll start off by attacking all the rednecks with a Ghastly Grasp, which is just barely enough to knock out the middle redneck. Next, we'll have Fast Pass use hit and run on the top redneck and finish with a Zeeker Rush from Mosquito, which is faster than running up and using Bug Bite Barrage, ending the fight without giving the enemies a single turn. Returning back to Qazplm's basement, we now get to decide on whether we want to do the class dupe glitch or not. The class dupe is a glitch that can only be done at the second origin story here. By quickly selecting a class and mashing the cancel button, we can get a 3rd class from Qazplm, effectively giving us an extra class slot to work with from now until the point we unlock all classes in the game. Now, the problem with this glitch is that it's not a 100% consistent trick, and going for it but missing it effectively kills your run, because you lose almost 2 minutes from having to do the class tutorial. On top of that, you have to decide ahead of time whether you want to go for the glitch or not. There's unfortunately no middle ground where you try to go for the glitch but don't get punished for messing up. This glitch saves about 45 seconds total from my estimates. Very little changes in the route if you go for the glitch, so it's a very easily skippable glitch if you're not aiming for a very optimized world record time, as you can learn the differences very easily. If you decide to go for the class dupe, you want to pick Speedster first and then dupe the Final Girl class to skip the tutorial. If you do not go for the class dupe, you'd only pick Final Girl to skip the tutorial. The important thing is to make sure you go into the knife section with the Final Girl class. Speedster is used for 2 fights solely because of Double Edge, and Final Girl is used for a glitch later that saves about 2 minutes. We also get access to 3 new classes, though they're not too useful for this upcoming section. Elementalist is easily one of the most broken classes casually. Sand Trap has good damage at 175% potency, and the shape makes it pretty easy to hit at least 2 enemies, though of course Ghastly Grasp is just so much better than it. Ice Prism is a single target attack with chill. While this is nice for crowd control, we don't have any use given how quickly we kill everything. On top of that, the chill animation still costs time, so while it's faster than some attack animations, it's not a huge time save. Hydro Helper is a heal and cleanse, plus it applies attack up which boosts base damage by 25% for 3 turns. While the boost would be nice to have, it costs a turn to use and wastes an entire skill and class slots. Cyborg has a lot of utility with Fatal Attraction pulling in enemies and Gant's technique taunting. But because new kids are best attacker, it's a waste to use these. The last class is Psychic and it has Psy Shield, which just shields a target, and Dazzling Flash which confuses a single enemy, which is pretty useless. Confusion makes an enemy treat all enemies and allies as valid targets. I'm not sure what the algorithm is, though I assume every enemy has their AI tuned to act differently while confused. Confusion doesn't have RNG to it at least. So if we do the same exact actions in a battle, confused enemies will act the same way each time. But I've seen a lot of weird situations, such as some enemies refusing to attack certain enemies, going out of their way to attack enemies, or vice versa. The only consistent thing I've heard and managed to confirm so far is that enemies will try to maximize targets for AoE attacks as their highest priority, so it could potentially be useful for fights with AoE heavy enemies. The last skill, Cerebral Blast, is the only useful one. It's not much weaker than Sand Trap and inflicts defense down to all enemies in an X shape. I mentioned this briefly before, but defense down only works for one attack, and it even gets cancelled by debuff or knockback damage. It boosts the base damage for a skill by 50%, so it's drastically better than attack up in exchange for only working once. That's why we'll try to save defense down debuffs for our strongest attacks instead of wasting it on weak attackers. Also, unfortunately, defense down and attack up stack additively, so having both only boosts damage by 75%. With DNA, this skill can outdamage something like Foam Destroyer while hitting multiple enemies and inflicting defense down on all targets, so it's really useful and is a big part of the no DLC run. But unfortunately, we'll only be seeing this skill once in the run because it's not easy to set up enemies in diagonals. The upcoming Freedom Pals 1 fight is currently one of the 3 fights in the run that changes with class duping. Regardless of which strat you go with, we'll be going in with the default party of Fast Pass, Human Kite, and Super Craig. Let's start off by taking a look at the fight without class duping. Out of the 3 Freedom Pals, Wonder Tweak is the fastest of the enemies, and unfortunately we can't kill him fast enough to prevent him from attacking. Plus he has huge range, so we'll be eating an attack from him. Mist Eerie Yawn is next and he has high movement, which makes it hard to avoid getting hit by him. Because of that, he'll be our first priority. We start off by moving the new kid to the right one space and using Ghastly Grasp on all the enemies. Then we move Fast Pass up to attack Mist Eerie Yawn diagonally. We had to move the new kid earlier even though they could reach from the back so that Human Kite had room to reach Mist Eerie Yawn. This will take him out. Now at this point, we actually want to move Super Craig back and skip his turn so that Tupperware can't attack anyone. Now we'll get rudely interrupted by another car cutscene before continuing the battle. For the second round, we'll start off by having the new kid take out Wonder Tweak with a Dire Shroud. Then we'll have Fast Pass and Human Kite work together to take out Tupperware to end the fight. Now then, let's take a look at how the fight changes when you do the class dupe. Before the fight, you want to equip the Double Edge skill over Soul Slash. Double Edge is a weird skill because it lets you attack twice in exchange for giving up your next turn. That may not sound too useful because you're effectively getting 2 attacks in 2 rounds anyways, but this skill is absurdly useful in the speedrun. First off, it lets us cut out a ton of animations by killing enemies faster. Second, you get 1 extra turn of movement, which means we can reach enemies that are normally too far out of the way. Third, it boosts up the ultimate gauge just like any other skill, which means we can get an ultimate attack in earlier in some scenarios. Finally, buffs only count down by 1 turn for your 2 actions, so you can extend the duration of buffs if needed. The skill itself still costs time to cast of course, so we still want to avoid using it unnecessarily. So how does the new fight look with this skill? We'll start off by having the new kid move over and use Double Edge followed by 2 Ghastly Grasps to deal a massive amount of damage to all enemies. Now, instead of Fast Pass attacking Mist Eerie Yawn, we actually have him attack Wonder Tweak to kill him before his turn. We then have Human Kite move up and attack Mist Eerie Yawn just like before to kill him before his turn, and then finally have Super Craig punch Tupperware to end the fight without giving the enemies a single turn, and without letting the car cutscene play. In total, this saves about 33 seconds on the fight, though with extra menuing needed from swapping skills and doing the actual class dupe itself, I estimate this saves about 26 seconds total. It's starting to get late, so why don't we all go to bed just like the new kid and come back next time for part 3.